It's really nice to be back in Knoxville. I like driving over here because it's such a beautiful drive coming through and seeing all the trees and all the different colors. And I always enjoyed coming over here to harass John and give him a hard time. Last week I was up in Harrisburg, Kentucky, doing some work for my sister. She's getting along in years now. She can't do some of the work, so I went up there to help her, and she gave me this email, and it's kind of interesting. It won't take just a second to go through it, but it has to do with our country, the United States of America. Listen to this. This is the U.S. Postal Service was established in 1775. You had 234 years to get it right. It's broke. The Social Security was established in 1935. You had 74 years to get it right. It's broke. Fannie Mae was established in 1938. You had 71 years to get it right. It's broke. The war on poverty started in 1964. You had 45 years to get it right. $1 trillion of our money is confiscated this year and transferred to the poor. It hasn't worked. Our entire country is broke. Medicare and Medicaid was established in 1965. You had 44 years to get it right. It's broke. Freddie Mac was established in 1970. You had 39 years to get it right. It's broke. $1 trillion were spent in the massive political payoffs called TARP, or the stimulus, shows no signs of working. Although Acorn appears to have found another, I can't use the word here, to the American taxpayer. I'll let you see this later. You can figure out what it said here. And finally, to set a new record, Cash for Clunkers was established in 2009. It went broke in 2009. It took cars that were the best some people could afford and replaced them with high-priced and less affordable cars, mostly Japanese. A good percentage of the profits went out of the country, and the American taxpayer take the hit for Congress' generosity in burning $3 billion of our dollars in failed experiments. So, with a perfect 100% of failure, you expect us to shove down our throats a fast-moving system called the or trust us with government-run health care. It says, are you crazy? That is our nation. You can see this a little later if you want to look at that. Yesterday, or this morning, or last night, I was going through the internet, and I ran off some things there. If you got a copy of the amount of religions in this nation, or not this nation, but around the world. And what you have there is just a very small percentage. I think it says there's some of the major religions in this country. And it tells you how many is in each religious group. I think the biggest one there is a Christian religion. I think it has like 2.2 million or something like that. And I think if you go down the list, you see a little number beside that. I think that's the varieties or offshoots of each one of the religions, so they just keep on going and going and going. The point is this, and Mr. Scott brought it up, Mr. Stevens brought it out very well. This world is full of false religions. But whoever asked the question, why? Why are there so many religions in this world? What is Satan trying to hide that he didn't want people to know? I'll tell you one thing, he's doing a masterful job, and that's just a very small percentage. I think the internet said there's over 4,000 religions in this world. Some I can't even pronounce the names, and you can go through that, or you can get on that internet. I think it's called Advent or something, adherent.com. And it'll give you all information about all these religions, what they believe in, and all that stuff. And it's kind of odd. There's something in our human makeup that makes us want to worship things, isn't it? I don't care if it's a rock or if it's a tree. I think the worship of trees is called astrozoism or something like that. That's what Prince Charles believes in. Something like astroism or something like that. And there's some on there, I can't even pronounce the name of them. I don't even know what they are. I've never heard of them before. But it's 4,000 or more than that. In this country alone, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of different sects just dealing with Christianity alone that get their belief, or they think they get their belief, out of that book called the Holy Bible. But yet what they believe, you can't find in the Bible. Their doctrines are not there. Their traditions are not there for the most part. It just simply isn't there. So why is Satan trying to hide? What is it that he doesn't want the people to know? It has to be something extremely important for him to go through all the trouble he's going through. It says he deceived the whole world. And he's done it through religion, not through physical knowledge, because that doesn't mean anything to him. But to get your mind messed up, to get your mind focused off what is true religion and what God is doing on this earth, he has to do what he has done, and you've got a list of it. And you see what kind of a job he's done for 6,000 years. He has really hurt people. He has messed with their minds. They've accepted that. That's why you can't get rid of it out of their minds. You know, like I said at feast, how hard it was you to give up Christmas. How hard was that? You know, I still have fond memories of that. I get to sleep, you know, when I come from a big family, so I had to sleep on the floor, which I enjoyed doing as a little kid, in front of the fireplace waiting for Santa Claus to come down through that chimney with a fire going. I don't know how he did it. But I still enjoyed all that. It's still in my mind. But I don't observe it anymore. I don't do that. As Mr. Stevens said, it's going to lead to death unless we wake up. So you got all these different religions around this world. And the result of all these religions, what do you have? You have people killing each other in the name of religion. That's what he wants done. He wants to deceive the human mind so they can't understand why God put us on this earth in the first place. Then we get to go around and destroying each other through wars. Isn't it funny that you think that during World War II, let's go that far, where the people on the German side were praying to the same God, the American people were praying to the American soldiers praying to the same God to kill one another or do whatever it was they were praying for. So you can see how messed up our minds really are when it comes to religion. We do not know our left hand from our right hand. I think that's what God says about a cow. He said, a cow knows his master, but these people don't even know me. They don't know me. So you can see how great a deceiver Satan the devil is. He does not want you to know, and the world to know, that they were born to be part of the family of God. He doesn't want them to know that, as long as he can hide it from them. And he's done a great job of doing that. Just think about your beliefs when you were growing up. What did you believe in? Certainly not what you believe in today, is it? As for myself, I didn't believe in anything except me. Whatever my eyes saw, that's what I wanted to do. Whatever I wanted to hear, whatever I wanted to taste, that's what I did. I always wanted, like it says, I just wanted to fulfill the pleasures of the carnal mind. That was me in a nutshell. So I was blinded, just like everybody else was. Until God says, for whatever reason, looked down and said, I want you. Because that used to be Uncle Sam pointed you, I want you. So he picked me out, he picked you out. He removed that garbage from your mind. Fills your mind with the Holy Spirit so you can understand what's in this book called the Holy Bible, that you can understand why you were born, what you're doing on this earth in the first place. And it's one of the greatest things, this world. Once they find out they have been deceived, and they're going to find out in the second resurrection, and they're going to find out through the great tribulation, that they have been totally deceived. And some of the greatest knowledge is coming their way as it has already come to us. The thing is, we must fulfill our destiny in order to accomplish what God has set before us. So it's hard for people to get it out of their minds. You don't keep Christmas or Easter or Valentine's Day or Halloween or any of these holy days. In fact, I don't know. I think I'm doing a double article. I think I've sent Mr. Trent this article, Why So Many Religions in the World. I'm doing it again just in case I didn't do it. So I'll finish it up tonight and I'll send it to you. If you got a computer, it's the most fascinating thing how all this came about. All these different denominations. What happened? It didn't start during the Protestant revolt. It started during the days of the apostles. Once you read the book of Ephesians and John and Peter and Paul, what all they said, totally confused people. That's what Satan wants to do, confuse you. So they don't want to know the truth. They really don't, and their minds can't accept it. But it is the truth, what I'm going to go through today. What the Bible teaches, people ignore. They ignore it. They reject it, or to ridicule it, or they want to change it to make something it says it doesn't say. So let's turn over to Romans 8 chapter and begin in verse 15. I guess we back up to 14. And this is from the modern Phillips translation. It says, all who follow the leading of God's Spirit are God's own sons. Nor are you meant to relapse into the old sadist attitude of fear. You have been adopted. That's a very poor word, that you're not going to be adopted. Into the family circle of God. Now, if you're a Trinity, you can't be a circle. A Trinity is something you can't add to. It's just, have you ever read the doctrine on the Trinity, what the Catholic Church come up with? It is the most difficult thing to understand. It had to be a demon to write that. Human beings could not have written that, or inspired by a demon. It's very complicated. Even the guy that wrote it couldn't understand what he's writing, probably. But it says, it's the family circle, God, and you can say with a full heart, Father, my Father. As Paul said, there is a great mystery. It's always a mystery in the Bible. Of course, it's not anymore to us. But 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 7, Paul says to the church at Corinth, which he had a lot of problems with this church here. That's why you have a 2 Corinthians. Try to correct these people. He says, 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 7 says, we speak of the wisdom of God in a mystery. The hidden wisdom which God ordained before the ages for our glory. It is our destiny. All of us, all human beings on this earth, it is our destiny to be born into the very family of God. That is why we're here on this earth. That's why He sustains this earth the way He does. So these laws, both physical and spiritual laws, to fulfill His purpose of why He created human beings in the very first place. I know a lot of people may be hearing this for the first time who are seeing this video later. This may be something new to you. And you said, well, what is he talking about, the family of God? I don't understand that. Well, as we go through this, you will understand. It's amazing to me that when you stick your nose in this Bible for more than 40 or 50 years, as some of these so-called ministers have done, and you don't see this, it just truly shows you that God has blinded the minds of these people. They can't see it, and it is so simple, isn't it? The verses are so simple to understand. All you got to do is read it, put it to the test, meditate on it, and think about what you've read, and you'll see that you are born to be part of the family of God. And God is a family. It's a God family into which each individual human being who has qualified to be instantly resurrected or changed, which one it is, into a literal God being. So I can see the churches saying blasphemy. You can't become God. I don't know about you. I'm going to become a turkey or something like that. A pig or a horse or a cow. It's so dumb to think that you can't be. You were born to become a God being. That is the family. Certainly I'm not saying I'm going to replace God the Father. I'm not going to replace, or you or anybody else is going to replace Jesus Christ. They are who they are. He is the Father and He is Jesus Christ the Son. We're not going to replace these. But we're going to reign with these. We'll become spirit beings just like they are. We're going to be on the same equal plane as they are. That is a spirit plane. That's what we're going to hear. That's what we're qualifying for. To be a part of the very family of God. And one of the most, when you look at the population of the earth, as I told London Church last week, you and I are the most blessed people in the Church of God to have the knowledge that we have. We could be out there on our way to the lake of fire. But He's put a stop to that for us. Now we have to qualify to be a part of this great family. But to have the knowledge you have is one of the greatest things in this world. It should make you happy always. Always, because you know why you're born. That's the greatest thing on the earth, isn't it? To know why you're walking on the face of this earth, not just flopping all over the place, have no idea. All those different religions you have right there, you read in the paper there, and more. Just flopping one religion to another till you find one that satisfies you. Choose the church as your choice. You're bound to find one Jesus Christ that will satisfy you. Somewhere out there's one Jesus that will satisfy you. But God is the Father, and Jesus Christ is Jesus Christ. And no one's going to become them. That's what I'm saying. Nor will have the same power or same authority as God the Father and Jesus Christ. It's not going to happen. But you will have power. Nothing compared to what they have. Human beings will become members of the very same family. The very same family. Composed of the same Spirit, doing the same work, living the same life as God the Father and Jesus Christ live. Whatever kind of life would you live? I'm not made in any image like angels or any other living creatures on this earth. I am made, and so are you, in the very image of God. I look like Him. He looks like me. Only the difference is I'm composed of matter. He's composed of Spirit. But it is our job, because we're not composed of the original, to become the original and get rid of the matter. That's what we're in on this earth to do. And we're going to exist on the same supreme God level when all this takes place. And it is going to take place. We'll be individuals. Of course, we'll be distinct from one another. You have your personality. That's not going to change. And you're going to do, you have your personality. You have all your abilities and more. And you have the mind capacity, as I'll show you later, that God has. He doesn't give that to angels. And so there's no in between. You either have to be in the God family or you're going to be dead. That's it. You're going to be cremated alive or you're going to be in the family of God. You're not going to be no angel. You're going to be some other animal that exists out there. He's not going to have that. Of course, I said we'll have our own same personalities. We'll maintain our own special characteristics. I like to be with people who have a lot of humor. I don't like to be around dry, dull people. I avoid them. They just bring you down. So I like to be around people that makes you laugh. Like this, Mr. Tackett sitting here, and a friend of mine named Eugene Taylor. He can tell one joke right after another. They're all clean, but enough just to make you crawl in the floor laughing. And I like to be around people that ask to laugh. We'll generate our own unique ideas, create our own original thoughts, enjoy our own preferential activities. What do you like to do? Well, I don't know what kind of activities there's going to be in the future. I have no idea. I know right now I'm sick of football, I'm sick of basketball, I'm sick of baseball, I'm sick of volleyball, I'm sick of all of it. It's just up to here with it. And I used to play it professional, and I am sick of it. There's got to be something better than running down a cow pasture with a bag of mire, kicking it, throwing it, pitching it, whatever it is. There's got to be better activities than that. We'll always be tightly united with the family of God, always. We will always be ruled by the Father and Jesus Christ, fulfilling God's overall purpose, spreading God's love, not just through this earth, but through the new universe He's going to create, throughout the entire universe. That type of love. We humans, we have a down payment of it. We don't know what it's like to be really loved, do we? To love the way God loves. It seems like our loves are always temporary. I love this, and after you get over that emotion, you love something else. So to love on a permanent basis, to be happy, to be joyful for all eternity is what God is offering us. And so if I were to get up in a Protestant church and teach this, I'll be thrown out. Well, that's blasphemy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're some kind of nut. But, like I said at the feast, if this is not true, what I'm going through is not true, we're in deep trouble. Really, really deep trouble. And the reason the people today, they listen to the wrong people. They listen to these so-called philosophers. They listen to these so-called theologians who think they know it all. They don't know anything. So they have replaced God's truth, as Paul says, and Peter says, and John says. When they kicked out the true Church of God members in John, well, they had to replace it with something. So replace it with a false truth. That was during the days of the apostles, and it's still going on today. So they had to replace the truth through this Protestant movement and all these other religions, the truth of God in the Bible, into an incomprehensible image of God. They don't even know what they're talking about. You look and see what kind of pictures they hang on the walls. My brother did that one day. He painted, you seen that one picture of Jesus Christ, supposed to be Jesus Christ, looking up there in his long flowing hair. That's what they think he looks like. I can bet you anything, when they get down to pray, that's the image in their mind. And of course, the Catholic Church, they do the very same thing. They have their churches and cathedrals are full of images. And you know that did not used to be? That did not used to be. Around 300 AD, they would not have that. But they sure changed in a hurry when all those Gentiles come in with all their different gods and everything, so they had to do something with them. So they caved into them. And so now we have a mythical, fuzzy being who's too perfect, or in their own minds, you can't be a part of this family because you've got to be too perfect, too righteous, too pious, too holy, and too downright religious to be approached by human beings. That's the way they think about God. He's too far above us to be approachable. Yet he talked to Adam and Eve. He talked to Noah. He talked to Moses. And he talks to you. He's talking to you right now as you read. So he must be approachable. But the Bible tells a different story. God is approachable. That is why he created human beings in the first place. If he's not going to have anything to do with it, what do you create us for? To let us go on our own, do whatever we want to do? Of course not. So all mankind could be able to grow spiritually into his very family. Every one of us. All the races. I hate to see these people going through the things they're going through. I don't like to look at little children like matchsticks and their bellies pooched out like that, no food to eat, starving. And then I can see my little grandchildren running around with all the things they have in this country. I don't like to see that. I really don't. I don't like to see people hurt. I don't like to see people die. These horrible deaths that people die from. It irritates me. I know it irritates God to see that. That's not why he created us in the first place, to kill one another, to lie and to take advantage of another person, but we do it on a daily basis. And the God family simply is not going to put up with that in the very near future. So today we're going to look at some scriptures that directly prove that man's ultimate goal is to be a part of the family of God, to become a God being. As I said, if Jesus Christ is not telling us the truth, then we're in deep trouble. We're in very, very deep trouble. I think, didn't you all have an earthquake over here? Like a 7.1 over in North Carolina, it's close to North Carolina. It caused that rock slide over there. It was like 14 miles deep. You didn't know you had an earthquake? Well, good thing I come over and told you this. Yeah, it's 7.1. It's 14 miles deep. It's where you go through the tunnels over through North Carolina, that area through there, Tennessee. That was just last week, wasn't it? A week and a half ago or something, all that happened. So this earth is just full of misery and suffering on a daily basis. And God doesn't like that. That's not why he created us for in the first place, to be a part of that. So we are born. We're put on this earth to be members of the very family of God. That's what it says in Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God. Or Elohim. E-L-I-O-H-M. E-L-O-H-I-M. And you can transfer it to God family if you want to. It means the very same thing. It's a uniplural word, which means there are many multiple members of that one God family unit. At this particular time, there's only two, but there's going to be added more to that. It's going to grow. God sums up the entire human life in Genesis 1. Says, Genesis 1 verse 26, let us make man in our image after our likenesses. There has to be a purpose for why Jesus Christ said that, and why he came down to this earth and scooped up dirt and formed that clay model of himself and blew air into his nose so it became a living, breathing creature. There has to be a purpose for that. What? To be some kind of as I said at the feast, not a mythical, but a fuzzy-like, ghost-like creature that exists on a plane somewhere a little bit of the angels, a little bit below the God plane. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. There is no such thing. There's a human plane, there's an angel plane, there's a God plane. And of course, there's different animal planes. That's it. But we humans are created for a very special purpose, to be a part of the God plane. Who knows what he has in store for us down on through the years. Here's the very first biblical reference to man. And with it, God's family announces with the firm intentions, what it says, to reproduce after its kind. We are to reproduce after this kind. That is one of the biggest faults that evolution has. You can only reproduce after your own kind. You ever see anything walk around that's half human and half something else? Or half cat, half dog, half pig, half horse? You won't see anything like that. You won't even find it in the fossil records. Everything reproduces after its own kind, and we humans reproduce after not the human kind, but the God kind. That's what we're doing, reproducing after the God kind. That's the principle going through Genesis there. And you back it up in verses through 4, 5, 6 things, everything reproduced after its own kind. Then it comes to humans. Humans are reproduced after the God kind. That's the theme that runs through the Bible. But he created man after his own kind, after the God kind. But why is this phrase, after its kind. Why is that phrase never applied to man? It never is it? It never is. But it's consistently applied to all other life. Cats reproduce after the cat kinds, and so on and so forth. Acorn tree after the acorn tree. But not to humans. It does apply to humans. So says false religions today. Because the primary purpose of human life is not physically reproduced after the humankind, as I said. That's not what we're doing. We're reproducing after the God kind for a very special purpose. What He has in store for us. It's the same as a newborn spider. Bird or whale, whatever, was designed to grow up to become exactly like its family or its parents. That's what we're doing. You and I look like our physical parents. But that's not the end of it. We're to develop character. When He says, let us make man in our image, the word there, to make man in our image, has a deeper meaning. It means to develop the holy, righteous character. For what purpose? Why would you want to develop holy, righteous purpose? So you can be born into the very family of God and have the very same mind of God. That's why. Animals can't do that. They don't sin. Only humans sin. Every human being was designed to grow up to become exactly like, like his physical parents. And just as animals began to reproduce themselves, God began to reproduce Himself. I guess He looked around and said, there's not enough of us. I want to create more of us. But how is He going to do it without making us automatons? How is He going to do that? Well, it's the mind of God to come up with this. How He's going to do that? He's going to do it through human beings. That's how He's going to do it, to make more of Himself. Who thinks like He does, who has the mind capacity He has, don't have the same power, but you're going to have power. You're going to have the glory that He's got, and you're going to be part of the very same family, living like He lives, a sinless life, full of joy, full of happiness, throughout all eternity. That's why we're here on this earth. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with believing something like that? Instead of being some nothing between the stages of an angel and a God being. It just doesn't make sense to think otherwise. Many times, Genesis 1:26 is often recited. I've heard it many, many times through these religious people. As time goes on, this verse becomes watered down. It says, let us make man in our image after our likeness, as representational as poetry is. Just read it as a poetry. It can't mean what it says. In fact, I heard a guy years ago say, I can't believe the Bible means what it says. How do you deal with somebody like that? Or it's a metaphor. We're made in God's image. It's a metaphor. It's a figure of speech and an analogy. Or a figure of anything but what it simply means. We're reproducing. God is reproducing after His kind. That's exactly what it means. And we just don't want to believe that. Mankind has devoted tens of thousands of volumes through the years on the search of the plan of God, the purpose of God, and the answers to mankind's existence, but to no avail. I hear it all the time on television. This is why are we here? What are we doing here? I don't understand it. And so they go to the libraries and they go to the books, to so-called Christian bookstores, and they can look up what people think that the plan of God says, and has nothing whatsoever to do with the Bible. Nothing whatsoever to do with the plan of God. But God reveals all three of these, the purpose, the plan, and the answers to all our questions in this book called the Bible. And it's there in very plain language. You don't have to be a Greek or a Hebrew scholar to understand what God is doing to us, doing for us, and why He put us on this earth in the first place. Let us, that is the God family, make man in the God family image, after the God family likeness. So plain. So plain. How much clearer can God have to be? How much clearer does He have to be for us to understand that? Well, evidently they didn't understand it in Jesus' day, and they still don't understand it today. The God family comprising at the present time of just two people, or two persons. God the Father, or being, let's put it that way, two God beings, God the Father and His Son. They created man for the purpose of joining them in the God family, to become additional God persons. Can you imagine the anxiety that the Father has waiting on your birth? In fact, that's the sermon I'll have next week, our new birth in the family of God in London. Can you imagine? How was it when your child was born? How anxious were you? How much more anxious do you think God is waiting for your birth to take place into His very family? In Genesis 17, verse 8, Abraham was promised the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. Then you read over in Romans 4, verse 13, Paul extended that to mean the entire world, not just the land of Canaan now. Abraham's now, his possession is going to be the entire world. And yet Hebrews 11, verse 3 says Abraham hasn't received anything yet. How does the Protestant world and modern Christianity get their way around that? He hasn't received anything yet. Well, he has to be in heaven according to their policies, their teachings, their doctrines. If he's in heaven, then he has received the promises, hasn't he? Well, here the Bible says no. He hasn't received anything at this particular point. And so, did God lie to Abraham? Is the question. Well, absolutely not. God didn't lie to him. He told him exactly. He says, you're going to own this. This is going to be yours. But now notice Leviticus, the 25th chapter, to understand what God means when He says, you're going to own the entire earth, Abraham, and also you'll be co-heirs. To understand this, Leviticus, the 25th chapter, verse 23. It says, the land shall not be sold permanently, for the land is mine. In other words, the land belongs to God. The entire earth, the universe belongs to God. But you people on this earth, you're nothing but strangers, and you're nothing but sojourners with me. This means that the land, that Canaan and the entire earth belongs to the God family. And only the God family can permanently own anything. As I said, the angels don't own anything. We are nothing but sojourners on this earth. Why? Because we're not permanent. We're limited in our amount of time we exist on this earth. We can't own anything. We can live on a piece of land. We can live in a house for a little while. We can drive a car for a little while. Eventually you're going to die and somebody else is going to get it. So therefore, how in the world are you going to own anything if you're physical? And since you're not going to become an angel, in order for Abraham to own anything at all, he has to be a member of the God family because the God family owns all everything. How else do you get around that? You have to be a member of the God family to own anything because God owns it all. And He's going to share it with His children. So you have to be a member of the God. You have to be a God to own anything. That's what He's telling us here. So Abraham must eventually become co-members of the God family, and there is no alternative to that fact. He has to be a member of the God family to own what God has promised him. Otherwise, he's not going to get anything. He can't. If he exists on a plane as an angel, as one guy says out of Arkansas, we're going to become angels. I don't think his elevator goes all the way to the top. Then you can't own any land. So if you exist between the plane, God plane and angel plane, you're not going to own anything. You can't own anything because it all belongs to God. Anything below that, they don't own nothing. They don't own anything. You shall be holy, Peter writes, for I am holy. That's 1 Peter 2 and verse 6. So God is commanding you and me to obtain to the level of holiness that God Himself reflects. Is that what He said? Is that what Peter was inspired to say? You, talking about you, members of the church of God, shall be holy as I am, as the Father is holy. Pretty high goal He set before us, didn't He? To become holy like He is holy. I don't think angels can attain that type of holiness. But the fact is, we can't do that, can we? As human beings, we simply cannot do that. So, what is God trying to do is trying to make us understand that you should be striving to be like God in holiness. Sometimes we let our guard down, don't we? We let our minds wander. As I said, we let our minds become stagnated if we don't watch ourselves. And stagnation stinks in God's eyes, in His nose. So we are to become striving to be holy like God. At some point in the future, we will be given the full measure of God's holiness sometime in the future. I hope it's not too far away as we watch every world events take place. All these things that are going on right now is just nuts. People act like they don't have any sense at all, don't they? So, in sometime in the future, as I said, this is going to take place. Upon the return of Jesus Christ, He'll change us into spirit beings, into the very family of God. In Job, we always read this at the funeral. I do most of the time at the funeral, Job 14, verse 14. And Job asks a very important question. And it's always been asked throughout all eternity, I guess, since the days of Adam and Eve. If a man die, shall he live again? He says, all the days of my appointed time, I'll wait for my change. I'll wait till my change come. And we leave it at that. We don't expound on what he just said here. What is he waiting for? He's waiting for his change to come. Change to what? Change into another type of an animal? What is that one religion they believe that you die, you can become a gnat or a fly or a horse or a pig or a donkey. It's one of those religions in India. What is that called? I can't remember that. Reincarnation. Shirley MacLaine's belief. And so, what is he going to change to? He's already a human being, so what is he waiting on? He's waiting to change into the God level existence. He knew that. Otherwise, what would he be even saying that for? He knew. It's amazing how much these people in the Old Testament knew. They knew a lot. They knew a lot. Psalm 17, verse 15. David knew it. King David knew it. He says, as for me, I will see your face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I wake in your likeness. Notice he's not coming up looking like an angel or any other beast that God has created. He says, I will be awake in your likeness. And we know what that likeness is in Revelation, the first chapter. Jesus Christ's eyes are like flames of fire and his hair is white like wool. That's what David is talking about. That's what Job is talking about. And that type of likeness. And only the God family has that type of a likeness. No other creature has that. That's why He created us, to have that same type of likeness. Now I'll show you about the mind too in just a minute. I've added some scriptures here and took away some since the last time I did this. And then I'll show you about the mind. This will all take place at the second coming of Jesus Christ. Today David is dead. He's in his grave. And that's an amazing thing there. Also, Peter says, David's not here. He's dead. He's not in heaven. And yet they think he's in heaven. Is God a liar? Somebody's lying. Well, God says, I'm not a liar. Let man be a liar and God be true. How do you explain stuff like that? You think you're going to heaven? Jesus Christ said, no one has ascended to heaven. No one except myself who came down from heaven. And here he says, David's not in heaven. He's still dead. They're all waiting. In the 11th chapter of Hebrews, they're waiting. They're waiting on the second coming of Jesus Christ so they can be raised into the very likeness, into the very God family. That's what they're waiting on. That's what we're waiting on. We're waiting for this change to come, to get rid of this tabernacle, which is full of ailments, full of limitations, full of pain and sorrow and misery on a daily basis. Whether you're in the church or not, we have sick people both in and out who are hurting. And we're waiting to get rid of this tabernacle that's full of this limitations, so He can put a body, give us a body without limitations. The Hebrew word for likeness, here what David says, into your likeness, is T-I-M-O-O-N-A-B. And I'm not sure how you pronounce it. That's a Hebrew word. And it is used directly to represent God Himself. Numbers 12 and verse 8 and Deuteronomy 4. Verses, I'll go real slow. Numbers 12 and verse 8. And Deuteronomy 4, verses 12 and verse 15 The word similitude is translated from likeness, but it means the same thing. It means the image of God. Then how can David bear the likeness or the similitude of God? How can he do that? How can David bear the likeness and the similitude of God without being God? How do you do that? I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I do know, but I'm talking about how the Protestant world can't see this. How do you explain stuff like that? How does false Christianity explain things like this? I know they say they're going to have a spirit-glorified body, but at what level they never tell you. And what they're going to do for all eternity they never tell you. Because they don't know. They don't know. Psalms 82 and John 10 verse 34, it says, "Ye are gods." And the people really got up, the Pharisees really got upset with Jesus Christ when he says that. He made himself equal with God, and they really wanted to stone him to death for that. He said, don't you know what's written in your own law? That ye are gods? And if you look up the word God, if you got a reference Bible there, you see the word Elohim. It's the very same word used back in Genesis. Let us, Elohim, make man in our image. And so, it says, you're all the children of the Most High. You are gods. Can anything be more clear than that? Did Jesus Christ know what he's talking about? He inspired both of them. He inspired David to write that down, and he quoted from it to the Pharisees. And yet their mind was all blown apart. They couldn't understand that at all. Just like the modern Christianity world can't understand when you say those things, it has to mean something entirely different than what it says. Ye are gods. Elohim. Elohim. The God family, the family circle of God. As I said, the religious people of his day didn't understand it, and they got on. They wanted to kill him over that. And if they had a chance, I don't know if they'd go that far, they would really blaspheme us or blast us for saying such things as that. Well, that's blasphemy. Did you know the sermon I gave last week, are you guilty of blasphemy? That's exactly what they do on Sunday. They blaspheme the name of God. And the sermon tells you how they do it. But God says very plainly, ye are gods. Very simple. Very simple indeed. But people have interpreted, they have transformed the three basic word statement as they wish. You're just righteous judges, is one of the things they say. Well, you're just holy people. God-like beings, you're angels. Men invested with the divine prerogative, representatives of God, heavenly appointed princes, sons of the covenant. All these adjectives trying to figure out what that word means. Ye are gods. And Jesus Christ said, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I know when I created that model myself back in the book of Genesis almost 6,000 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. Otherwise, they say he's a liar. He doesn't know what he's doing. But he isn't a liar. He just didn't take that piece of clay and mold it because he want to have fun in the mud. They have a goal. They have a plan in mind, the Father and the Son. And they're going to fulfill it. And we're a part of that plan. We're part of the goal they have set before us. To be born in the very family of God with the very likeness of God himself. To enjoy all the joys and love and happiness that God family has. He wants to give that and share it with us. And he's going to do it. I don't know how many he's got laying in the graves waiting on the resurrection for them to come. Maybe thousands. Just waiting. Why would the word Elohim in Genesis 1:26 be any different than Psalms 82 and 6? How did it come different? Well, it didn't, only in the minds of unconverted people. Only in minds who got their nose stuck in this book where it shouldn't be stuck in the first place, lying, telling lies. In their mind, they're sincere about what they're teaching, but it is outright lies. That you cannot become God. But God says you can become God. And he ought to know. He should know what he's doing. So there is no difference between Genesis 1:26 and Psalms 82, verse 6. The same word means, it's a uniplural noun, meaning more than one. If Elohim created mankind in Elohim's likeness, that's what he's saying he's doing here. Then in Psalms 82, Elohim says to his creation, you are Elohim. I hope I didn't get over your head there. I'll do that again. If Elohim created mankind in Elohim's likeness, then in Psalms 82 verse 6, Elohim says to his creation, you are Elohim. He should know. And he should know what he's doing. And that's what Jesus Christ quoted in John 10 verse 35. Ye are gods. And look at verse 35. What does it say at the bottom part of it? The scriptures cannot be broken. In other words, he's telling you the truth. You're gods. You can't break those scriptures. Elohim is Elohim. It means the very same thing. It can't be broken. If it can be broken, then Jesus Christ is a liar. As I said, we're in trouble. If Jesus Christ is a liar, we're in trouble. We're in deep trouble. In other words, the Creator himself, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, states that the very purpose of human life is to become God. I know that the thing I realize, I do understand this, that when you use the word God to modern Christianity, they don't understand it. They don't understand the word God. They don't understand what it says, you shall have no other gods before me. I know what it says in there, I am God and there's none like me. I know what that means. They don't. And so they like to quote that. And even the Worldwide Church started quoting that after the death of Herbert Armstrong. And when these false, let's put it this way, let's put it this way, when the scum rose to the earth, rose to the top of the Church of God, the scum who now preach the very opposite of what they used to teach. What other words can you use for it? And they taught that see, there's only one God. Isaiah says that. And now thousands of them believe just the opposite of what they were taught in the first place. Isaiah 58 and verse 5. I've got to hurry along here. It says, the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. But the literal Hebrew meaning is to gather thee up. What this means that human beings can eventually be exactly, have the same glory that God now possessed himself. That's what it's talking about. Isaiah 58 and verse 8. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard, but the Hebrew word meaning shall gather thee up, with the same type of likeness. Genesis 17 verse 1 says, God told Abraham, said, you walk before me and be perfect or be blameless. That's what he told Abraham back then, back in the book of Genesis, the Old Testament. What did Jesus Christ say in Matthew 5 verse 48? Not to the world, but to you and to me. Become ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's New Testament, same as the Old Testament. The very same thing. And we know that God is perfect. And Jesus Christ insists. He didn't just give us a suggestion to the church, but he commands us that we humans must become just as perfect, as the same level as God the Father is perfect. That's what he's saying. You become perfect just as what? As my Father is perfect. Who's he telling that to? He's telling it to human beings, to the church of God, to you and to me. We are to be perfect like our Father in heaven is perfect. But how is this possible? How is it possible to obtain such perfection as the Father has? Is it possible? How can we fulfill such high requirements that God has set before us? Good question. Good question. How are we going to do that? There's only one way, brother. One way. It is through an instantaneous change upon the return of Jesus Christ or through a resurrection. That is it. That's the only two choices we have. An instantaneous change or through a resurrection in order for us to be on the same level of perfection as the Father is. Angels are not that way. They are not perfect as their Creator is. We see that from the example of Lucifer. He was perfect, but not perfect like God was. God can't sin. Lucifer was perfect, but he had the ability to sin, and he did. And he chose the wrong way. If our existence is just to become a spiritual creature, a plane exists somewhere below the angel family, above the angel family, below the God family, then there's no way There's absolutely no way on the face of this earth can you and I become perfect. We have to be on the same level, the same God plane in order to be perfect. That's the only way it can happen. The only way. But, as I said, if Jesus Christ did not tell us the truth, or if there's error in the Bible that deals with that, then the whole Bible is wrong. And it's a myth. There is no God. And if there is no God, guess what? We are on the path of doom. July the 16th, 1945 made it all possible in the deserts of New Mexico when man misused his mind to learn how to split the atom and cause the first atomic explosion. And then once that knowledge got out, you can't put it back. Now look at the nations that have it. So either this Bible is true or we are in deep trouble. Deep trouble. Because somewhere down the line, someone is going to explode the first atomic weapon again. And it's going to be a domino effect. That's why Jesus Christ said the Bible is true. If I don't come back, this is exactly what's going to take place. You will kill yourself. You will misuse the most precious thing I have given you, your mind, to this type of knowledge. Instead of developing my character so you can be a part of my family, you're going to develop these weapons of mass destruction, and you're going to kill each other. If the Bible is not true, this is what will take place. But God said, I'm going to put a stop to that. That's not why I brought human beings on this earth in the first place. Not to kill one another, not to destroy everything I've created, but to be a part of the family of God, and my will stand. Whatever I said forth out of my mouth, it's not going to come back to me void. My purpose will stand, and I will have my family. One way or another, I'm going to have my family. And He has called us to be a part of that family. And there can be no other higher calling than that, than be a part of the family of God. To know why you are sitting here today is the most precious thing you have in your mind. And so, like God says, we've got to do something with what we know. Knowledge is very dangerous if it's not used correctly. And we can see what mankind has done with the knowledge He has given him. Well, I've got so much here, I'm going to have to leave a lot out again. I'll have to put it on the computer, I guess. Matthew 6 and verse 9 is in one of this many verses which mentions the Father. Our Father which art in heaven. In John 6 verse 27 it states that God's name is the Father. This theme of God being called the Father and His people be called children and sons is one of the most fundamental characteristics throughout the Bible. Father and sons. Matthew 13 verse 43 states in the resurrections, the likeness, those Christians who overcome, that's what it's talking about, and the world, overcome the world in themselves, shall shine forth as a sun in the kingdom of their Father. And the word son there is S-U-N. Now what does it say in the book of Revelation, the first chapter, I think it's verse 16? Jesus Christ's face shines like what? S-U-N. And here He says we're going to shine just like that. Angels don't shine like that. Only the God family shines like the sun in His full strength. In order to be able to do that, you have to be a part of the God family for that to happen. Not somewhere in between the God family and the angel family. It's just not going to work. Converted human beings will eventually be like Jesus Christ and shine just like that sun. And since Jesus is God, John 1:1, and equal with God, Philippians 2 and verse 6, so in like manner will ever converted human beings be. Every one of us. John 6 verse 46 states that no man can see God except he who is of God. How do you get around that? How does the Protestant world get... Well, probably they don't say anything about it. They don't want to touch on something they can't explain. And right now what they're doing on television is blaspheming the holy days by saying that if you give a $600 or $900 donation, you'll be blessed, because that's what it says in all the feast days. You're not before the Lord empty-handed. And so they're using that to raise money, and you get a double portion. Whoa. So a lot of things I'm going to have to leave out. John 17, verse 5 and verse 22 says, "Now, O Father, glorify me with thy own glory, which I had before the world was." Jesus Christ knew full well what he was saying, what he was doing, when he gave precisely the same glory to what? To the human family, to the human disciples he was talking to, his followers. Verse 22, John verse 22 says, "And with the glory you gave me, I have given them, that they should be one as we are one." What Jesus Christ is doing is adding new members to the God family. That's what he's talking about here. So I'm going to have to skip ahead because I've got bunches of notes up here and I've got to move on. I can't believe I've been up here this long. This is what Paul said to the church at Rome. I forgot to put the scripture down. I'll just read it. Maybe you can find it. I don't know why I didn't. I just left the verse out. He said, "Do you not have..." Now listen to this. "Do you not know that as many of us were baptized into Jesus Christ Jesus, were baptized unto his death?" We understand that, don't we? We understand what baptism is about. Now he goes on, "Just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also walk in the newness of life. For if we have been unified together in his likeness of his death, certainly we also shall be in the likeness of his resurrection." He's talking to the church at Rome about that. And what is his likeness? Revelation 1 verse 16, it tells you all about it. This verse is telling us that if we qualify, we become brothers and sisters of Jesus Christ in the God family. And he goes on to say, Philippians 2 and verse 5, I'm really going to have to cut it short here. You know this by heart. He says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Jesus Christ." Philippians 2 and verse 5, verse 6. Christ was equal with God. Christ's mind was the mind of God. That's what he's saying here. And we are to allow that very same mind with the mental capacity of God to become our minds. Isn't what he's saying? Let this mind, the mind of God, be in your mind. To have God's mind. Why? So you can think like he does. So you can act like he does. And be just like him. That's what he's doing. That's what this life is all about. I was going to go through that. I don't really have time now to go through the revelation there where we're to, other human beings will come down and bow down before you and worship you. And John did that to an angel, and he said, "Don't do that to me. You only worship God." And yet he says, "I'm going to make other human beings come down and bow before you." And you have to be a God being for that to happen. And you can't get away from that. And that's what's going to take place. We are born to be members of the very family of God. And what better proof is in Genesis, I never thought about this before. In Genesis 3 and verse 5, you know what it says there? What Satan says? That you be like God? Is that it's what he told Adam? That's what he told Eve. But it's correct. But he messed up her mind and changed it all around some way. But Genesis 3 verse 5, that God himself taught Adam and Eve that the very purpose of human life was to live to become born again to the very family of God. Genesis 3 verse 5. They had to know that. What better proof than the entire Bible that our personal destiny is to become members of the very family of God?